Well, I've basically owned advertising and marketing companies since I was 23. I'm 47 now, so I've been doing it for a while. I've had a number of award-winning ad agencies, and most recently I co-founded a company called Photon, which grew in 8 years from start to when I left it about 3 years ago to a market capitalisation of around 500 million. So in the last 3 years, I've not been working full-time. I live most of the time in Los Angeles, some of the time in Australia, and I mentor people. So I mentor a lot of entrepreneurs, and I do that in several ways. I do it privately, and I do it also through a company that I created with a couple of partners of mine called the Fortune Institute, where we teach entrepreneurs hardcore, reality-based business lessons. Well, really, what we saw was there was two types of education. There was the highly academic education that wasn't necessarily that practical, and then there was this what we viewed as the salesman type of business education that was available, where some guy was teaching you business but probably hasn't owned a business that's been successful himself. So we thought there was a real space in the middle where competent, experienced business people taught you practical skills about business, not just theories, that you could use the next day to make more money. And we think that's going to be the future of business education. Well, that's a good question. I think the answer is the quality of the teachers. Almost everybody who teaches at the Fortune Institute has made multiple millions in business. That's our kind of unique space, that you can have a successful entrepreneur telling you what to do. And that's vastly different from your typical business coach, because your typical business coach has bought a franchise which has given him 50 lessons on business, and then he applies those lessons to you. But of course, reading about it or studying it is fundamentally different from having been through it. So we think, we like to think that the quality of our advice is at a high level compared to a lot of the business coaches who haven't owned a successful business. Yeah, we very much focus on making more money and quickly. Now, so that often means it's around marketing. So many companies don't have a system of getting customers in that works. They don't have a system of monetizing them to the maximum. They don't have a system of following up in a disciplined, methodical manner over time, so they get repeat purchases. They don't have any of these systems. So many companies I see are successful just because of the talent of the owners, rather than them being particularly great business people. So what we do is we instill a whole series of things that business owners can do that pretty much within 3 or 4 weeks starts increasing their income. Oh, well, great. This business is very new. Fortune Institute's very new, and really, I suppose the greatest challenge has been understanding a new industry, because you're really selling information, and that there's a whole series of different ways to sell information that I had to learn. So, you know, do you sell it in group coaching? Do you sell it online? Do you sell it as a course that you can buy remotely? All of these are different models, and plenty of other models as well that I wasn't particularly acquainted with. So I had to learn those. And I guess, you know, any industry that you go in is the same. There's going to be a learning period where you try and understand the structure, or the best structure, that you need to follow. Well, my first tip is to spend most of your time getting new customers. When you look at your typical young business, it is absolutely amazing how little time they're spending getting new customers. They might spend 2 hours a day on it. But of course, they should be spending 7 hours a day trying to get new revenue in the door, because the number one reason that businesses fail is low sales. So that's the first tip. The second tip is to remember that you need to be systems orientated. You can't just rely on people power. You have to have, if you're going to build a business to any great height, you've got to have systems from word go that enable anybody to come in and work in your business and follow your system. And the great businesses have that, and the poor businesses just rely on the talent of the people. And then I think thirdly, you have to have an obsession with continuous improvement. You know, the reality is there's just countless examples of companies making tiny changes again and again and again, and then you look at them 5 years later and they're the leader in their field. Now, from an outsider's perspective, they think, oh, they're just brilliant. Not at all. They tried something, it didn't work, they adapted. They tried another thing, it didn't work, they adapted, until finally they unlocked the code for their particular business. Well, I chair a number of online companies in Australia, and so I think a few board seats. I do a lot of investing. You know, most of my income comes from investing, not so much from the Fortune Institute. But also, what we'd like to do is, in the next 5 years, develop the Fortune Institute so that it's seen as the leading business educator in Australia. And I think that's very possible, because you know we've only been around for a bit over a year and we're growing very fast. People like the practical approach taught by business people, not lecturers.